Good morning, students. Welcome back to C++ class. In today's class, I'll explain you about operator overloading. Okay, function overloading already I've explained means more than one function can have the same name, but function can be identified with the different parameters. Similarly, in C++, we can overload operator. We can overload operator. What it means, an operator can take more than one form. Okay, example, plus operators you can take. If you will take a if you will perform a plus operator with the strings, you will get a string concatenation. Same addition operator if you will use with the numeric values, then it will become an addition. Operator is same, but whatever result or whatever actions it is performing, whatever meaning is there in two places, that will be different. That is called as a operator overloading. Okay, so in C++, our today's concept is operator overloading. Now let me read the definition of this. In C++, operator overloading, using operator overloading, we can specify more than one meaning for an operator. Okay, what is an operator overloading? We can specify meaning, more than one meaning to one operator. Okay, now what is the use of this? Actually, we can use why we are using this is we can perform different operation with single operator. Okay, now only the definition is operator overloading is nothing but providing a different meaning to a special operator. Okay, so that is called as a operator overloading. Now you see the example here. Operator overloading is possible by using a operator function. Okay, so that operator function will create inside a class. See, in the syntax you see, to overload a C++ operator, we should define a special function inside the class. So if you want to create a operator overloading in C++, then you need to create a special function inside the class. That function is nothing but the operator. So you see the structure here, class name. Class name is a any user identifier. You can give any name. Now under public section, I have given return type, means what type of result that function is giving back. That is nothing but the return type. Operator is the name of the function. Okay, now to which operator you are creating operator overloading, that you have to give. Operator is nothing but, so when you are creating a operator overloading, then it is a condition that whatever operator should be there, no, that should be a type of operator function. Right, here arguments I have given. Now definition I have given, explanation I have given here. Once you see the definition here, return type is nothing but the return type of the function. What type of result it is giving back, that is nothing but the return type. Next, operator is a keyword here. Okay, operator is a keyword, and using that keyword only we can create a operator overloading. Symbol denotes the operator. To whichever operator you want to give a different meaning, that is nothing but the symbol. Okay, arguments are optional. If you want to perform any calculations, then you need to give the values. So if you want to give the value, that is possible by using the operators only. Okay, just you see the example program here. IOStream is a preprocessor command. As you all know, it is compulsory to include in the program because we'll get functions from this preprocessor only. The next we are using a std module. If you'll include std module, then only whatever functions are available in that module we can include in our program. And here class is a keyword, test class is the name of the class. Now come to the private. Inside the private, I have created one variable called count. What type of variable it is? It is an integer. Now the next you come to the public section. It's a public section. I have created a constructor. You see, test class. If any function is created with the class name, then that is called as a constructor. I have created one constructor inside the constructor I have created count of 5, right? I have initialized a variable. Now void operator, here you can see the operator overloading I am given. Void is a return type, operator is a keyword, as it is you should write, and minus it is a decrement operator. Okay, I am using decrement operator. I am providing a decrement operator to a different meaning here. Okay, so actually this decrement operator here, what meaning you are giving here? It is nothing but it is the name of the function. Okay, operator, actually this decrement operator is used to decrement the value, but here the same operator is used as a function name, that is called as the operator overloading. And inside that, what function body you have given? Count equals to count minus 3. I am decrementing, basically count value was 5, now I am decrementing that by 3. Now display function is used to display whatever is there on the whatever is there in a operator overloading function. Now come to the main class, main function. Inside the main function I have created one object, test class TC. TC is an object. Okay, now in the next line you see minus TC. What is the minus? It is a decrementation. What is the decrementation here? This is a function. Okay, that is TC. Using that object we are calling. Now TC dot display. So we are calling a display function. Using that function we are printing a value. Okay, now return 0. So this is about operator overloading. Here decrement operator is playing one more role, that is a function name. Now explanation of that above program, you see IO stream, this I have explained, which we should include in our program in order to use the different functions of the IO stream. Next we are including a namespace to use all the classes of that in our program. Next our class name is a test class. Two access modifiers have given, that is a private and public. Private is which provide the private members which cannot be accessed outside the class, but inside the class we can access. And one integer variable I have created, that name is a count, and that is a privately accessible. And in the public access modifier we created a class member as a public accessible. Okay, we used the class constructor, okay, class constructor, and which initializes counter equals to 5. So we created one constructor inside the class, and that constructor is initializing the variable count equals to 5. Now what is the overloading operator here? Decrement operator. Now you see overload, the meaning of the decrement operator. Now the operator will decrement the value by 1. Actually, what is the use of the decrement operator? It will decrement the value of any variable by 1. Operator overloading function, what we did, whatever that decrement operator, we gave a different meaning, new name we gave, right? And whatever value is there in that is printed. See, right? And in the main section we called, so whatever else that points I have mentioned here, right? So only the thing you need to remember is that is decrement operator is there. No, that decrement operator will decrement any variable value by 1. The same decrement operator here we are using as a name of the function, and that function can be called by using a object. Okay, so the function operator is same, but it is playing two roles. One is an operator and the second one is the name of the function. So actually that is a concept. So here decrement operator is we are using as a name of the function, and whatever rules you have for the function, the same rules will be applicable to this decrement operator also. Okay, actually what is the initial purpose of the operator? A decrement operator will decrement the value by 1, but here the same operator what we are using same operator as a function name. Okay, so operator is only one, but it is performing two things, two meanings are there to that function, that operator. So this concept is called as a operator overloading. Okay, so now let us learn about next topic, that is object conversion. Okay, so what is the object conversion? Actually, what is an object? Object is an instance of a class. We'll create object to a class, and when you create an object, no, using that object only will execute all the properties and the methods of a class. Okay, and it is a process of converting. Actually, what is object conversion? It is a process of converting class object to a primitive data type. Okay, so whatever object you create, that object will be converted into a primitive data type. See, actually this object is a user defined, that will convert into a primitive data types. This process is called as a object conversion. Okay, so what is the object conversion? Object conversion is a process of converting your object into a primitive data type, right? Now, in this conversion, the from type is class object and to the to type is a primitive. Okay, so we are converting class to primitive data type. Okay, class from primitive to. So we are converting class to primitive data type. Understood? Now, and this is possible by using a the operator function name. This function already we discussed in a operator overloading. So when you want to create operator overloading in C++, that is possible by using a operator keyword and the operator symbol, operator as a function. This already I have explained in operator overloading. So this object conversion also is possible by using this only. So here first we will create operator and name of the function. Now for this example I will explain, but what we are going to discuss in the example here I will tell you. This function convert user defined data type to the primitive data type. Here what is a user defined data type? Class is a user defined data type that will convert into the primitive data type. For example, operator double. Okay, here double, what operator? Double we are taking, that converts a class object to a type double, right? Okay, so actually this example this is not example program. What we are doing is one operator double will convert object into double data type, right? And using if you use the int also, you can convert object into the int data type. Only example I have given here. So double data type you can convert your class object to double data type. You can convert your class object to a int data type. Okay, so that is an example for object conversion. Here we have one example program. You see here, circle is a class, private data member I have created, that is a int radius. Next public I have created, circle int r equals to 0. Here circle is a constructor, r is a integer variable, and here it is a parameter. Okay, what is the r here? R is a integer variable, it is a parameter of a constructor circle that we are assigning to a radius. Now you see here class rectangle, one more class I have created. In that I have created two data members, one is the length and the second one is the breadth, right? Next public, inside the public I have created one constructor, that is a rectangle, because class name and method name is same, then that is called as a constructor. And how many values are there? How many parameters are there? Two. One is a L, the second one is a B, length and breadth. Okay, now I am assigning this L to length, B to breadth, because whatever you create inside the class that are a local, sorry, that are a actual, whatever you create inside the methods and all, that is a formal. Okay, so formal will be erased from a memory when the function execution is over. So that is why what we do is that formal parameters will assign to a actual parameters. Okay, now here you see operator when you want to overload, when you want to convert a object into the primitive data type, here we need operator and the function. Here you see circle. Okay, circle, return circle length. So this is the function here. Now come to the main function. Inside the main function, I have created object for a rectangle. Once you see here, rectangle R 20 comma 10. So rectangle R means R is your object for this. Okay. Now circle C, I have created one object for a circle class, that is C. Now C equals to R. C equals to R. What is R here? Radius. So we assigned this R to your object C. Then what happened? That object is converted into a primitive data type, because here int is R is a type of integer. So when you assign this integer value to object, then that will become a primitive data type, right? That object will become a primitive. If you are storing integer value inside anything, no, that is integer variable only. So here what I am doing, I am assigning integer value to an object, then that is called as a object conversion. Here we converted object C into an integer data type, because we assigned the R value to that object. R is the type of integer. So when you are saving that integer value into the object, then what happened? That object is successfully converted into a integer data type. So this process is called as a object conversion. Okay, so here I have created object for a class C, and to that object what value we are assigning? R, and R is a type of what? Integer. What you stored integer value inside the object, no? So that is called as a object conversion. Okay, now come to the next one, and this is the last topic in the second unit, aggregation in object oriented programming. See, what is an aggregation in object oriented programming? Is example, in a actually when you create you will create object to a class. Okay, and using that object will execute different methods and data members of a class. But here what is an aggregation is, example, if you have created more than one object to a class, more than one object to a different class, and if there is any relationship between objects, then that is called as a aggregation. Okay, so the aggregation is nothing but it's the association between two objects. Okay, what is an aggregation? Aggregation is nothing but it is an association between two objects that corresponds to a whole or part of relationship is called as an aggregation, or we can say that it is has a relationship. Okay, it is an association between two objects is called as a aggregation. Okay, or we can say that aggregation is a relationship between a whole object that contains several other objects and a part objects that is one of the object of whole. See, aggregation means, example, one object is there, it contains 3 to 4 objects, example, so that is called as an aggregation. Or one object is example, in the same group two more objects are there, one or more objects are there, so they may have a relationship. Okay, not inside the object, within an object also. Means, example, if class A is there, in the class A is created 3 objects, example, class 2, class 3, class 4, then that there also you can maintain a relationship. Or within one class is there, inside the class student 1, student 2 is there, 2 objects are there, between the 2 objects also you can create a relationship. Okay, that 2 situations will come under aggregation only. Okay, understood aggregation? So there are 2 types of aggregations. Okay, one is a simple aggregation and the second one is a composite aggregation. And what happened in a simple aggregation? The aggregation that uses its part objects but cannot create or destroy them is called as a simple aggregation. Means, if one object is three one object 1 is there and object 2 3 4, so whatever methods, whatever data members are there, that can be used by the object 1, but object 1 cannot have a right to create or destroy the remaining objects, then that is called as a simple object. Okay, so what is a simple object? It's part object, but it can use the parts of that object but cannot create or destroy them, is called as a simple aggregation. One object can use the parts, is nothing but the properties of another object, but that object cannot create or cannot destroy that object members, then that is called as a aggregation, as a simple aggregation. Okay, simple aggregation. And next the one example I will give. There is a relationship between a school object and the student object. A school object cannot create or destroy the student object. Thus, if the school object is destroy the student object, it will not get destroyed. Okay, example. But it can use the properties of the student. Then that is called as a simple aggregation. Now, composite aggregation. The composite aggregation, it uses a part of other objects and it can also create and it can also destroy the objects of the other objects. That process is called as a composite. In the first method, method of aggregation, what happened? One object can use the properties of another object, but it cannot create, it cannot destroy the other objects. That is a simple aggregation. In the second method, the object can use the properties of another objects. At the same time, it can create and it can destroy other objects also. That will come under the composite aggregation. Okay. So with this, and for this composite aggregation, one example is there: tree, stem, leaves, branches. Tree can use this properties of these three objects and it can destroy the tree also. So this will come under the composite aggregation. See here I have given definition also. Aggregation is a specialized form of association between two or more objects. Okay, it is an association between two or more object. Okay, in which each object has its own life cycle, but there is exist an ownership as well. Okay, it can have its own properties and it can use the other objects properties also. So that is aggregation. Okay, so with this our second unit over. In today's class, what I have explained, operator overloading. Operator overloading means one operator can take more than one form. If an operator is taking more than one form, then it is called as a operator overloading. So in operator overloading, a special function is created to a class using a operator keyword. Operator keyword, and next give the operator. Okay, what example I have given? Decrement operator I have given. Actually, decrement operator decrements a variable value by 1. Here decrement operator decrements a value, at the same time it is performing a different actions. Okay, so that is a operator overloading. Next, object conversion. In object conversion, what we did, we converted one object into a, means we converted object into any other primitive data type. Okay, so that is called as a object conversion. And next come to aggregation. In aggregation, one object can take the properties of another object and it can means it is an association between an objects. Okay, what is aggregation? Aggregation is nothing but it is an association between objects. So in aggregation there are two types of aggregation. One is a simple aggregation and the second one is a composite aggregation. In a simple aggregation, one object can take the properties of another object, but it cannot create or it cannot destroy the other objects. That is a simple aggregation. And the next one is composite aggregation. In a composite aggregation, what happens is one object can take the properties of another objects. At the same time, it can create, it can destroy the other objects also. Okay, so this is the second unit. The next unit will discuss about inheritance, types of inheritance, parent class, base class, how the base class can take the properties, how base class can give properties to the child class, that we'll discuss in the next class. Okay. Thank you.